Hey, Pete here. In this video, I'd like to talk to you about how you can enrich your journalistic writing without using cliches. Okay, so one mistake that some non-English speaking journalists make when they're trying to make their writing more interesting, more impactful in English is they use lists of idioms off the internet. Now, the problem with this is that if you search for idioms on the internet, you're likely to get lists of very, very common idioms that have been overused and have become cliches. And so these are no longer interesting, they're not original, so they don't have this impact that you're looking for in your writing. Instead of this, what you want to do is you want to read news articles written by expert journalists, English speaking journalists, and notice how they creatively, cleverly use figurative language in their writing. Okay, so you want to notice these idioms or metaphors, right? And become more and more familiar, gain more and more exposure, and then start to use them in your writing. So I'm going to first give you an example of lists of idioms to avoid off the internet. And then I'm going to show you what I mean by noticing useful figurative language in a newspaper article. Okay, so all I've done here is made a search in Google for idioms lists, and one of the first things that came up was this, right? So here we got idiom, meaning, usage, and actually there's 55 more rows, right? And let's take a look. So the first idiom is a piece of cake, right? It's easy. This is something that it's been used so many times that it's just no longer particularly interesting. I wouldn't use this in a newspaper article, right? It's not at all original. Okay, and none of these are original. It's raining cats and dogs. I mean, you probably heard this so many times, right? It means it's raining hard. So again, I wouldn't use this in my writing. Kill two birds with one stone. I sometimes say this, but again, it's not particularly original, so it's not going to have the impact that you want in your writing. It's not really interesting. And let the cat out of the bag, which means give away a secret. Don't know, he let the cat out of the bag. I mean, again, it's just been used so many times. So this is what you want to avoid. You don't want to search on the internet for lists like this because you're probably going to get idioms that are very common and have become almost, if not totally, cliche. Okay. Okay, so this is how you want to enrich your writing. You want to read news articles and then notice figurative language. Okay, so this is, for example, a news article about coronavirus in The Guardian online. Okay, so I mean, straight away, if you read the headline, if the measure of a city is how it treats its invisibles, London should be ashamed. All right, so here straight away we have a metaphor, right? It's invisible, so it's talking about people with the lowest paid jobs in London that are just not being given the respect, they're not being given the salaries and working conditions that they deserve, right? So this metaphor of the invisibles is because basically the government aren't taking any notice of them. So they're not literally invisible, but that's the metaphor. People are not taking any notice of them. Okay, so and then if we continue, this article is full of figurative language, right? So let's go down just a little bit to the first paragraph, and it talks about here two deadly mutant virus variants rampaging across the country. Okay, so what we have here, this is actually an example of personification using this verb rampaging, right? Someone rampages It means that they move around, making a lot of noise, causing a lot of damage, right? But here we're talking about not a person, but a virus. So that's why this is personification. It's another creative way of using language. This is figurative language. Okay, so that's quite impactful. Yeah. Let's look at one more example. At the bottom here it says this is a criticism of the current Prime Minister at the time of making this video, right, Boris Johnson. It talks about the response is a numb anxiety, right? So the word, again, this is again personification, right? So usually numb refers to a part of the body or the senses when you have no feeling, right? But here it's being used to describe anxiety. So again, this is quite a very impactful way of using figurative language in writing. Okay, so this is what you want to do, right? If you're using lists on the internet, lists of idioms, don't do this, but do this. Okay, just read lots and lots of news articles and notice figurative language, and then think about it, analyze it. Right, the more exposure you get, and the more thinking you do, that is all great input. And then gradually you'll start to use this in your own writing. Okay.